Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with a new what if, and this what if is actually a collab with my boy Xehther. This is what if Deku had Miles Morales' powers. So if you guys are coming from his channel and you like this part, why not subscribe? And tell me what you think about it in the comments down below. With that said, let's begin. So first things first, if you missed part 1, head over to Xehther's channel for that. He left you guys on a cliffhanger, so that's where I'm going to be picking up. So Izuku hears his mom coming up the stairs. He's freaking out at this point. He quickly put back on his clothes, and so does Katsumi. And his first instinct is to hide under his bed, but it's too low. And at this point, Inko is like knocking at the door. Izuku, you okay in there? I'm coming in. And he takes Katsumi and uses his webs to stick her to the roof, and he runs over to his desk, and Inko walks in. She sees him using his computer. She says hi, and he says he's just browsing YouTube, checking out some what-ifers. He says he likes IzuKage. I wonder why. So yeah, she doesn't really want to disturb him that much, so she just leaves. She takes a quick glance around the room and sees nothing, so she heads back down. So when she walks off, Izuku lets off this heavy sigh of relief, and after that he takes Katsumi down and they have a good laugh about it. So fast forward to the next day at school, and they walk into class holding hands. They don't really care about showing off their relationship. It's really no secret after what happened at the sports festival, if you remember that. So Aizawa comes in later and he says they need to be assessed on what they've learned from their internships. So the rescue training race happens, and Izuku using his web swinging alone is enough, but combined with the speed and agility, he easily makes it to All Might way before anyone else. And All Might is amazed and a bit proud. He had a hand in training Izuku, so he kind of felt like a proud father. So during this school week, Class 1A had their final exams, and to study, Izuku and Katsumi would study at the library or something, not wanting to be, have a close call with his mom ever again. So, they're playing it safe. So the written parts of the exams go pretty well for both of them, with Izuku actually coming first in the class and Katsumi second. This made Momo almost this made Momo almost have a heart attack, not seeing herself in first anymore. And she's always been that her entire life, so it's freaking her out. So yeah. So to the fighting portion of the final exams, I would go over everyone's fight, but that's gonna take way too long and really boring cause it wouldn't really change. So let's get into what you guys really want to see, and that's Izuku and Katsumi versus All Might. So they actually devised a plan this time before rushing straight at All Might. Izuku grabs Katsumi and they go on top of a building, waiting for him to pass by. And as soon as he does, they look down and see All Might walking by. Izuku shoots his webs trying to restrain All Might, but he just busts through and he throws a Detroit smash at the two. But Katsumi, flies off, dodging it, and Izuku jumps down. While in the air, Katsumi does a bunch of explosions, spinning around, flying towards All Might, and hits him with a powerful explosion. You notice as her house or impact. So while he's dazed, Izuku goes in for a punch, and it lands, and All Might goes flying because this is 70% of one for all. So All Might, after those two, he's knocked out, if not really badly injured at this point. So they cuff him and everybody's cheering oh my god, they just beat All Might, the #1 hero, these kids. And there were people recording on their phones. They send it around and it's spreading hella quick. So after the final exams, they're getting recognized a lot more than after the sports festival. That recognition is huge. So the little break they have to get supplies for the training camp, Izuku doesn't get approached by Shigaraki. One, because he has spidey senses, so he would pick up on the danger if he even gets near to him. And two, they're basically celebrities at this point, so there's always people crowding around them. So yeah, they got a huge clout boost, especially Izuku, first being trained by Spider-Man, now this. Yeah, so to the forest training arc, they get on the bus to the camp, and it's like a 5-hour bus ride. The class, they're playing some games, other fun stuff to do on the bus. And when Katsumi gets tired, she sleeps on Deku's lap, and Mineta is just in the back looking like, "You're so lucky, Midoriya," and he's just crying. But yeah, so apart from that, they get to the cliff edge, and everyone thinks it's just like a rest stop to stretch or whatever. And since they're on the side of a cliff, they wouldn't expect this is where the camp is. So the Wild Pussycats show up, and nobody knows them but Izuku, and he was about to point out that they're rescue heroes, but before he even could, Pixie Bob sends a landslide, sending everyone down into the forest. And they fend off the monsters pretty well, especially with Izuku and Katsumi's help. They clear it in under an hour, and they walk to the camp, barely any scratches on them. And Pixie Bob is looking like, how did you pass all my creatures? And Aizawa then looks at Pixie Bob and said, "Hey, you see those two over there? Yeah, those two, don't take them lightly. They've had pro hero training, so be careful around those two." So Pixie Bob is she knows All Might. She knows Aizawa isn't a joker, so she takes it in good faith. And they go to cook, and the encounter with Kota still happens, but as he goes to punch Izuku in the nuts, his spidey senses kick in and he dodges it. "Whoa there, you almost cost Katsumi her kids." And Katsumi's like, "What? No." And she's just blushing really red. And Izuku just begins laughing. So while they're eating, Izuku realizes that the kid isn't around anymore. So he goes looking for him and finally finds him sitting at the edge of this cliff. And he takes some food to him, but Kota is having his whole sob thing, and he's like, I don't want it. I don't want to associate with you heroes." And Izuku was gonna say something, but he's just gonna leave him to himself. So he goes back, and they have their baths, they bathe, and Mineta tries looking over, but Izuku just yanks him back with his spidey webs back into the hot springs. He's like, "Nope, you're not seeing what's over there. Only I get to see that." He's always talking about Katsumi. So the next day, Izuku and everyone else in Class A begins their training. Izuku mainly training his voltage outputs, how many, it's self-explanatory really, how many volts he can output at once. So he gets to work on that. Katsumi still does same thing she does in canon, and so does everyone else. So by the end of the day, after all their training, everybody's completely exhausted. I can't remember what they did, but there were some people doing regular class stuff, so they still do that. And the people who fail their final exams and stuff, so they still do their class stuff to get up on their grades. So when everybody was sitting around having their dinner, they had to make it this time. Izuku actually making the food, along with Katsumi, and they, if I could describe it in well, I could, but this food is probably the best thing you'll ever have, just saying. So while they're cooking and everyone's eating, having a good time, chatting, and they see the forest on fire, they go outside and take a closer look, and they see blue flames, and they get a telepathy message, I guess you can call it, from Mandalay, and she's like, "Yo, this is a villain attack, take this seriously." And Izuku, his mind immediately goes to Kota, he doesn't see him around, he's probably at his spot. He dashes over there. Katsumi tries stopping him, but he tells her to stay here. So he rushes over there and sees Muscular holding Kota by the neck, and he's like, "Bro, hold on, let me go on a tangent real quick. Why is this big guy picking on this little kid? Bro, get on someone your own size, jeez." Alright, whatever. So Izuku sees Kota being strangled, so he wraps some webs around him and yanks him towards him before Muscular could do any damage. And Muscular's like, "Give me him back, I need to finish his lineage." And Izuku is like, what the fuck? Izuku, he tells Kota to go, but he's afraid. He's not going anywhere. So Izuku starts getting in a fight with Muscular. They're trading blows. Izuku using around 50% of using his strength. It's comparable to around 50% of One for All, and they're throwing good hands until Muscular starts using more of his muscles, and he begins going on his whole villain tangent, saying the whole reason why he's here. He's here to capture Tokoyami this time, because in the original, the whole reason they were there was to capture Bakugo was because in the sports festival, he was acting like a villain. Since this is Katsumi now, she's pretty chill, so she didn't act all crazy, but they saw the potential in Tokoyami's quirk, the darkness in his quirk. Maybe they could recruit him to the dark side, so that's their whole plan, and they actually want to kill Izuku and Katsumi. They see them as the biggest threat to their whole plan. So Izuku is throwing good hands with Muscular, but he's way faster than him. Like sometimes he punches him and he crawls on his arm, punching him in the face and electrocuting him. Like he holds his head in his hands and just sends thousands of volts through him. Thinking this will get him, he goes over to Kota, but this guy is like he's rising from the dead. He gets up every time, his muscles growing even bigger, and Izuku had to go all out. He used a electricity amplified 100%, comparable to 100% of One for All punch. So electricity coursing through his body. He punches Muscular. His muscles actually working against him, absorbing all of the voltage and frying this guy, making him look like a piece of burnt toast. So after that, Izuku, his left arm is broken, so he grabs Kota with his right, and he runs over to Mandalay, and she does her whole telepathy thing, telling everyone they have permission to use their quirks. And Izuku goes looking for Katsumi because of what Muscular said, they're out to kill them. So he's running through the woods and he finally sees her, but it's too late. Katsumi this time was actually fighting Mr. Compress, and since she didn't know anything about his quirk, she got a bit reckless and got caught in his orb thing, his quirk. And Izuku seeing this got so mad, the lightning began shooting out of his body, and he goes and blitzes Mr. Compress, but he was already through one of Kurogiri's portals. And Izuku at this point was boiling with rage. No, I was too weak. He sent out all the electricity he had built up into an explosion, not really an explosion, but it exploded the ground under him, leaving a massive crater. He's that angry. He keeps punching the ground, and Momo goes up to him. She tries calming him down. She says, well, we can still save her. We have this tracking device. And, she was gonna get the heroes to help them. Izuku just snatches the tracking device out of her hands and just swings away to the Nomu's place. And Momo's just like, rude. But yeah, anyways, he gets there within like 20 minutes ish, and he busts through the door to see a bunch of like Nomu in tanks, and he's pretty disappointed that this wasn't the right place. So he was obviously going to report this to the police, but that's not his number one priority right now. So he's looking through to see if there's any clues to where their base might be, and as he was about to leave, he sees a portal open up. It was Spinner, and he came out with the body of Pixie Bob, because they knocked her out and took her with them. So he blitzes him and kicks him back through the portal. So Spinner was like lying on the ground, and all the villains look towards him like, how did you get in our hideout? And Izuku sees Tokoyami and Katsumi tied to chairs, and he shoots some webs towards all the villains in the room, sending electric shock through the webs, and this fried some of them, actually putting some of them near death because they don't have resistance like the others. So he goes and frees Tokoyami and Katsumi, and when he does, she runs up and hugs him tight, almost killing him, almost killing my man. And but the moment was sadly ruined by all the villains' body begin being covered with this sludge, and all the villains just disappeared through a portal, and All For One stepped out of like one of those sludge portals. And at the same time, the heroes finally arrive with All Might busting through the villain's base saying, "I am here!" And All Might, he's not smiling when he sees All For One. He tells Izuku in a serious tone, "Get out of here, kid. The first punch is mine." And Izuku was gonna object, but he sees the look on All Might's face and says, "Yo, you do you, just don't kill him, And, All Might wants him to take him down right now. He goes all out. He charges up a punch and says,
"Go beyond! Plus!
He sends All For One flying out of the hideout, and everyone around was cheering, but All Might felt a pit in his stomach. All For One was lying on the ground. He seemed to be unconscious, but he looks over to him. All Might looks over to All For One, and you hear this. "You think you can take me down that easily?" And All For One begins standing up, and he's like, "Don't worry, All Might. Once I take you down, I'll take your successor with me. That girl. Yes, I know." All For One not All For One. All Might hearing this, he gets a serious look on his face, saying like, how did he know? Well, it's kind of obvious. Explosions and super strength, but whatever. And Izuku, he's like, all right, I'm gonna step in. He steps in and punches All For One with like 70% strength of One For All, and he sends him flying, but Katsumi comes up behind All For One, launches an explosion in his back, but little did she know he had a shock absorption quirk, so the explosion basically did nothing. He whips around and grabs Katsumi by the... He reaches around and grabs Katsumi by the neck, and she's flailing around, and she like hugs onto his arm and twists it, like almost like basically breaking his arm, and she escapes, and Izuku comes back again. He wraps All For One in his webs and sends electricity through it, but All For One was still standing. He grabs Izuku's webs and yanks him towards him and punches him, but that wouldn't keep him down for long. All Might gets into the fight and sends a bunch of punches towards All For One, and actually used his United States of Smash earlier this time, so it's not as draining, but still, it was a lot of power behind it. So he crushes All For One's head into the ground, and GG for All For One, I guess. So like the TVs were recording this, and they saw how these US students played a crucial role in this takedown, and this spread really fast. And somebody who saw this was Spider-Man. He was watching the news. So back to Japan, people were cheering and no one was really injured, so they won't really have that much backlash for having no hero license. But hey, speaking of hero licenses, that's the next arc. So after like a day of rest, a lot of people go into the hospitals. All Might does get approached by his cop friend, the dog mutt thing. He says like he can't have US students running around taking down villains, but he can't lie. They did do a good job, but the law is the law. So they do end up having to go to the provisional licenses exam. Can I speak? Provisional licensing exams, and they meet the students from what's the name? Yo, give me a second. Yes. So they meet. So they meet all the students from Shiketsu High, and they have the wind dude, the guy that makes the earthquake things. So all of that happens, and in the fight, it's pretty long. I don't remember exactly what happens, but hey, everyone in class 1A passes, and the wind dude. But hey, yeah, everyone in class 1A passes. So Izuku getting his provisional license, he sends pictures to all his close friends, including his family, including his mom, All Might, and Spider-Man. And he actually calls Spider-Man. They talked about what's been going on, just catching up for a bit because they haven't talked in a while. So that happens, and Izuku and Katsumi decide to, celebrate this accomplishment. Her also getting her provisional license, and her actually getting her provisional license as well. So they go out and have a good time. They eat, they go have I don't know, whatever thing you do for fun. I don't know, bowling, I guess. Yeah, just do some really fun stuff. And by the end of it, they actually ended up going to Katsumi's place. Her parents weren't home, so it's the perfect time. So, they celebrate a bit in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. And yeah, that goes down. And the next day, Izuku wakes up. He has Katsumi still on his chest, and he's just like, I'm that guy. Like, I'm that guy, bro. Who else can wake up to this? So after that, they ended up having to go back to school, and this is the day where the big three came to class 1A. After their introductions, Mirio challenges everyone in the class, and everyone was like, you against all of us. Okay, you may be in this big three or whatever, but you're not gonna take us all down. Fast forward 5 minutes, and he took everyone down. So they went to the fighting area, and Mirio just pieced up everyone in class 1A, easy as they did in canon. But Izuku and Katsumi were staying to the back, watching his moves to see basically how his quirk works, or get an idea of what it is. And if they paid off, they had a decent idea. So after he took down everyone, they rushed in, and Izuku, using his web, shoots at Mirio, but it goes right through him. And Mirio goes on the ground trying to punch Izuku, but when he resurfaced, he was gone. And he also lost track of Katsumi, but she was behind him and shot an explosion into his face, but he phased through it again. He materialized and tried punching Katsumi, but Izuku punched Mirio, but he didn't know where he was. Izuku was actually invisible. And you can't dodge what you can't see. So OP strat. So, and since he can't be intangible for really long because he needs air to breathe, so while he's getting like punched from random directions, he's trying to predict it, but he can't. In his confusion, Katsumi sends a explosion right in his back, causing Mirio to fall over, like barely conscious. And they have to take him to they have to take him to Recovery Girl. And in Recovery Girl's office, she was cussing Katsumi and Izuku for going that hard on the poor boy. So they go into Mira's like bed area, to talk to him. They thought he would be mad, but when they slide off the curtain, they see this man doing jumping jacks, push-ups, the whole works. And they were surprised at his enthusiasm. So when Mirio was finished, he complimented them on their teamwork and raw strength in general, and asked if they'd want to work under his master. They asked who's that, and he goes on to explain about Sir Naitai and his agency, and that it's he's a pretty chill guy if you're funny. And Izuku is like, funny. Funny's my middle name. So they ended up going to Sir Naitai like 2 days later with Mirio. Like Katsumi and Izuku ended up going, and they enter his office, and well, I'm not sure about Katsumi, but Izuku actually managed to make him laugh, and he was in such a good mood. He was like, yo, I'll pass both of you, why not? That goes down, and Sir Naitai gives them like basically how things work around here. And he tells him about Chisaki and his whole organization. So when they're going on patrols, if they ever see him, don't engage. So later that day, Mirio, Katsumi, and Izuku actually end up getting some patrols in. While patrolling, they stops a few robbers. Just some petty theft. So yeah, nothing too serious. They just handed it over to the local police. So when they were walking, Izuku's walking, and this girl bumps into his leg. This little girl, and he looks over and sees Eri. He sees she's all bandaged up, and this made him a bit worried. So he picks her up, and he's asking like, "Are you okay?" And she just looks scared. She's like, okay. Like she's trying to talk, but as she was gonna say something, Chisaki comes up. Izuku sees the bird mask and immediately tenses up. So he's like, Shisaki says, "Oh, Eri, why do you keep running?" And then he looks towards Izuku. "I'm sorry for my daughter. She's just a bit reckless sometimes. You can see that by the bandages." And Izuku gets the weirdest vibe off this guy. And he's like, "Your daughter, huh?" He's like, "Yeah. Come on, Eri, let's go home. You don't want these kind heroes to kick the bucket." Wait, no, he wouldn't say that, but he just says some menacing stuff. I can't really think of anything. But yeah, he says some really menacing stuff. And Izuku, he doesn't feel safe giving Eri back to this guy. So he hands Eri over to Katsumi, and he's like, "Watch her for me." And he turns to Overhaul. I'll just call him Overhaul for now, instead of switching between I can't even say it, so I'm sticking with Overhaul. So he says, what are you planning to do with that girl?" And he's like, "Just give me her already." And he takes off his gloves and touches the ground. Spikes lift up, but they all dodge. It's not really that fast. And Katsumi runs off to Katsumi runs off to the agency with Eri, while Izuku and Mirio are engaged with combat with Overhaul. They really don't want to do this, especially in the streets, because Overhaul's quirk is really destructive. He's destroying buildings like nothing and trying to attack them. And whenever Izuku tries like wrapping his webs around him, he just dissolves them. So Izuku throws a electricity blast at Overhaul, and to be honest, Overhaul isn't particularly fast, isn't particularly strong. He just has his quirk. So he can't escape this move, and he gets electrocuted, and he falls over, but one of his henchmen comes, grabs him, and he runs off. I'll say he has like a super speed quirk. So he runs off with Overhaul unconscious, and they go back to the base. But little did any of them know, Izuku, he's intellectual. He developed this little tracking device. I think Spider-Man in the movies actually had something like this. He pins it on the henchman, and he runs off. So they let him go, and they're looking around, and they see like 2 buildings missing, just completely like turned into sand, and they're like, I don't really know I'm gonna explain this one. So they go back to Sir Nidai's office, and they see they see Eri. They wrapped her up in a blanket, and she's saying, "Let me go back, he's gonna kill you." And Izuku is just he's comforting her, he's saying, "No, we're here to protect you." And Eri, she seems happy, but she's afraid of what Overhaul is going to do to them. So Sir Nidai touches Eri and sees her whole like how she got there, and he sees all the experiments they've been doing on this poor girl. And Sir Nidai, he's overcome with emotion. Like he was like, yeah, Overhaul, like drug lord or whatever, really bad guy, but seeing this, he's like, we gotta get him, stop everything, get him. So Sir Nidai is just overcome with emotion, and he tells them what he sees, and they're all like, they really want to take Overhaul down now. So they still collaborate with other agencies and get the raid plans together, and they raid the hideout, and they know exactly where it is, because Sir Nidai sees where Eri came from, and Izuku has his tracking device, so he can track specifically where the place is. So using that information, they raid the building, and everything goes basically the same. Everyone gets into their own fights. Fat Gum and Kirishima, Tamaki, and who was he fighting? These like 3 gang members. It comes down to Mirio and Izuku versus Overhaul, and Mirio would never lose his quirk, because he loses his quirk protecting Eri, and with Eri out of the equation, he can dodge as freely as he wants. So they are dodging, and they go all out on this guy. Mirio is phasing in and out, punching him, and they made sure to take down their henchmen first. his henchmen first, and this fight is going on, and their Overhaul is really badly losing. So he goes over to one of his unconscious henchmen and does the same thing as Cannon, like fuses with him and becomes this giant monster thing. And so Overhaul becomes this giant monster thing, and Mirio and Izuku like are trying to figure out a way to like do this, but Izuku is saying, you know, this is for Eri, and he basically powers up. He goes full strength, like basically equal 100% to of One for All. So he kind of enters a similar form as in Canon, but instead of like flying around, he's swinging, because, you know, I don't want to spoil it if you don't know, but yeah, he's swinging around, and with basically 100% of One for All and these electricity blasts, he manages to take down this massive Overhaul. So the cops finally come in, and you know, they handcuff Overhaul and all his henchmen, and yeah, all that goes down. And Eri was like watching this, and Izuku made sure to beat the heck out of Overhaul just for Eri. So Eri was watching this entire fight unfold like on live TV, because there's always cameras like recording all these fights. So she's watching, and she's satisfied seeing the person who's literally made her life like a living hell get, you know, the justice he deserves. So Overhaul gets taken in, all these lackeys get taken in, and yeah, that's pretty much it for that arc. So for the Gentle Criminal arc, to be honest, I'm gonna be real with you, I don't know a lot about like this fight, because like all the other fights in My Hero I've watched probably 5 to 10 times, depending on how good it is. But this I probably even haven't watched it in its entirety. So alright, yeah, so they get prepared for the school festival, and you know, everyone's preparing their supplies and stuff. So when Izuku is asked to go get some rope, he does, and he passes like the tea shop that Gentle and La Brava came out of. So first Izuku uses his web to stick La Brava to the ground, so because he doesn't know what her quirk is, so he sticks her to the ground, and this makes Gentle like mad, like, how dare you touch her. So he like goes on the offensive and bounces towards Izuku, like kicking him in the chest, but Izuku got those reflexes. He dodges and ends up kicking Gentle to the ground, and he shocks him a bit, and you know, Gentle, you know, he gets the boost from La Brava's quirk. Yeah, I think it's from, yeah, he gets the boost from La Brava's quirk, but this still wasn't enough, especially like being basically as strong as All Might. Izuku whips Gentle, so he wraps him up and, you know, shocks him some more just to make sure he stays down, and he turns in Gentle and La Brava. So the festival goes on without any interruption. It was actually really good, and Eri actually does smile, you know, the brightest smile she's ever had in her life, and this struck something in Izuku's heart. It just had a warm feeling. So, you know, this was really good. And Katsumi, she's been all over Eri. You know, she loves her like her own child. So hey, with that said, this seems like a good place to end it. So hope you guys enjoyed my part 2 to this. Make sure, well, it's the end of the video, so you obviously watch part 1, but still, you know, if you guys like the video, like. If you like my content in general, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next What If.